bow to you, to the light in your heart, to the goodness in your being, and the badness as well. To all of it. I love you for you and everything that you are. And I think that's part of our journey, is learning to love ourselves for everything we are. The mistakes, the errors, the pains, the joys, all of it. I just did a video before this, and I'll be shared. And I said some things in the beginning, kind of my plan for the video. And then I didn't really do exactly what I had planned. So I'm realizing now that I'm not going to say what's going to happen in the video unless it's very clear. So we'll see what the spirit wants. But what I have to share first, and I'll put this little video I just took, is I have a pool over here. A few years ago we built it. It's just a very small pool. It's just really for dipping. It's quite hot here. And so right now there's an iguana. I don't know if you guys know what an iguana is, but it's kind of like a big lizard, but big, you know. And it has half of its tail dunked in the pool, and the others, like the body's like hanging out on the side. And I realized that, you know, for a long time I wanted to build a little dipping pool, but I realized that I actually built it as well for the animals that are all around. There's one, I don't know if it's the same one, but a yellow bird that always comes and dips itself. And it like dips and then comes out, and then it dips again and then comes out, and it dips, and it has like a whole bathing ritual. And so one morning we were doing ceremony here, and Luis Gabriel was talking, and we take turns talking in the morning, and I'm you know, still totally in the medicine, and I'm watching this bird, and it's dipping, coming out, shaking, dipping, shaking, coming out. And so in that moment, you know, a big part of the path that we're on with the plant medicines, for those of you who work with them, is learning how to give witness to nature and learning how to observe how nature is and what teachings we can get from it. And so in that moment, I realized that that bird was showing us a common thread that you see throughout nature. You know, for example, I think it's the gazelles. I've seen these videos, and when they're chased, you know, when they go through a chase, afterwards, if they escape, they have a way of standing there, and they'll just shake their body. Yeah. And so as they shake, what's happening is they have a natural built-in mechanism for releasing fear in the body. Yeah. In the same way that this bird was coming down here, this was just the natural way that this bird daily cleanses itself, right? It goes up, it shakes off, then it like picks out its feathers, it shakes off, picks out its feathers. And so why am I saying these things? There's in the path of the plant medicines, something we're learning is how to come into tune, to see nature, and to work in the way that she does. There's a sort of natural way of cleansing and purifying our body. Yeah. One very beautiful way is through the plant medicines. Yeah. For example, with the ayahuasca that we work with, there's a purgatory, and there's a diarrhea effect. And what is happening there, it's cleansing out the body of excess energies, yeah, and it's cleansing out fears, illnesses, doubts, different things from the body that are stuck energetically there. Mm-hmm. As well, when you come to the ceremonies and there's cleanings done, that's cleaning out the body. Some people have asked me often in the mornings of ceremonies, how many times do I recommend to go to a ceremony? At the end, there's no There's no prescription. You know, you go to a doctor, and in my opinion, there's no prescription. You go to a doctor and they say, take this medication twice a day, 50 milligrams. You know, with the medicine, I don't feel it's like that. I can't say, I think you should come once a month. But what I can say is tap in to the intelligence of your heart and feel what the heart wants. Yeah. For some people, they may like to do it as sort of a once a year tune-up, maybe once every 4 year tune-up. Some people like a 10 times a year tune-up, or there's some people, you know, that work a lot throughout the year with the medicines, and that works for different people. But what I have told people is that I often find it helpful when you work consecutively with the plants. So let's say you're going to do 4 ceremonies this year. What I would recommend, in my personal opinion, is to do 2 weekends in a row. Yeah. Why? Because it's like you get to a lake and there's all this muck and there's all these leaves and twigs and all kinds of things. And so the first ceremony, you take off 1 layer. Second ceremony, 2 or 3 layers. Third, more layers. And then the fourth, it's like the pond is so transparent. This is just an example. It can be transparent in a second. It's so transparent. And so sort of the depth of your spiritual discovery and uncovery comes with less baggage, with less toxicity, with less things that you're carrying. You know, Taito always uses this explanation metaphor where he says it's like we're trying to get to the top of the mountain and we're carrying this very heavy backpack. And so each ceremony, you're taking some of these out. You're taking some of the bricks out, some of the tools. And so by the 4th ceremony, maybe you've even got rid of the backpack. And so now it's very easy to get to the top of the mountain and to have a deeper communication with the plant, with the spirits, and with the ancestors. And so, for example, I remember I've been working with Taito for many years, and back in the day, I mean, he still does tours like this, but for myself, he used to come to Costa Rica and we'd do these tours where there would be 4 or 5 weekends. And so we'd do 8 or 10 ceremonies in a month. And in one way, I mean, that was a lot. But in another way, I found myself getting so light and so sensitive to the medicine and so open that, like, I'd come to a ceremony and I could just smell the medicine. I could just look at it and I was like in that vibe, in that frequency. And often in between the weekends, the drunkenness was still coming out. The more I've worked with the medicine, the more I've been starting to learn and understand about this celestial sacred drunkenness that we talk about in the ceremonies. Yeah. And so this drunkenness, it's a drunkenness with the spirits of nature. Yeah. This drunkenness isn't produced by the medicine. The medicine has high concentration of DMT in the leaves, but there's also DMT that's produced in the body that brings visionary states, right? And so this drunkenness can be brought on through meditation, through playing music, yeah, through doing a practice in nature, yeah. And so this drunkenness is a sort of connection into the infinite consciousness of life. Yeah. And so with some people that opens into visions, with some people it opens it up to a sort of happiness and elation and joy. And so this drunkenness opens our soul. Yeah. And so this is something that we start to uncover more as we meditate, we do plants, we do yoga, we do different spiritual practices, is this sort of openness of the heart, openness of the spirit, and connectedness with life. This drunkenness takes us into the place of no separation. Yeah. And everyone has different experiences of this, but in the end, consciousness is as it is, right? The consciousness of you, the consciousness as me, that's the one consciousness of all of life. Yeah. But consciousness takes different states and different forms to realize this world as well. So so yeah, if you feel, sometimes it's nice to do more back-to-back ceremonies, because you're cleansing. Yeah, you're cleansing the lake. And I found for me some of my deepest healings it is in those back-to-backs. And that's why often in our lineage we do ceremonies that are back-to-back, because there's a mixture between the bitterness of the first night, which is sort of the pulling up the gunk, and the sweetness, which is more like the transparency of the clear lake. Yeah. And then it's like getting into deeper truths of who we are. So one practice that I'll share with you today, and this is a sort of different practices that we're going to be doing on this course, of ways to enter into this drunkenness, we can call it connection with spirits, into a sort of elevated way of beingness, and a way to bring more happiness and joy into your life. Yeah. And so this practice, it's called Nature Ally. For those of you who've come on retreats with us, we've done this there before. And so it's a practice that I often do. Yeah, not every day, but I have sometimes where months, every day I'll do it. Yeah. What the practice is basically to find somewhere around your home, to find a tree, to find a boulder, to find an element, to find something that you want to make an ally with. And so the idea of this is to find something around your home, or if you live somewhere where there's a park nearby, you could go to the park, and you're wanting to make a deep connection with this. So the important thing is when you go outside, sorry, I was thinking about something for a second. I wasn't sure if I did this in another video, but we're just gonna go forward with it anyway. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna go outside, and you're gonna let your consciousness, you're gonna let your heart to be attracted by something outside. So for example, myself, I have a tree in front of my house that I always go to. Yeah, it's one of my nature allies, and I personally find it really helpful to use a tree. Yeah, because somehow when there's that tree, you can hug it, you can put your back against it, you can put your head down towards its roots. Yeah, there's a nice physical form to connect with. So maybe start the practice with a tree unless you feel really called to something else. Yeah. Somehow I feel like with this practice, it's like it's like having a therapist or having like a good friend who gives you advice, but you can know that there's no sort of human judgment, human grab between the two of you. There's no sort of conceptions of that person having of you or you having of that person. And so there's a freedom there. Yeah. It's like a therapist that you know is just going to open its heart to you, and there's going to be no judgment. Yeah. And so you can feel free to express yourself and to not worry. Yeah. And so firstly, it's important to know that there's the tree. We'll take the tree as an example. There's the tree, and then there's the spirit of the tree. Yeah. And then the spirit of the tree, behind it, it has a sort of family. Yeah. And so there's a family of beings there, and that family has a sort of message or a sort of intention or a sort of song, we could say. And so it's sort of like your soul has a song that it wants to express in life, and then you're learning like how to play it and how to amplify it and how to grow it. And so there's a certain energy, a certain message that comes from them. Yeah. And so, for example, I tell this story often because it was a beautiful experience I had with this tree, where I felt like I had lost one of my limbs because one of my best friends, we were having a fight and we were kind of like, not in a good way. And so I felt that sort of lack of support, and I felt like I'd really lost a part of me. And so I went outside and I sat with the tree. I put my head, I hugged it, I put my back. And often when I go out, I like to make a little offering. So I bring some sage, I do some smoke, or I bring an incense, or I play a song or something to sort of connect with the person, with that being. And so then I said, great tree, your spirit, the beings that hold you, I need some guidance. I need some clarity on my path. And I explained everything, my friend. We had a fight, I don't know if we're gonna be friends anymore. There's such a big support for me, and it feels like I'm losing that support. I feel so alone. I feel scared, and so on. And I went and I went and I went, and I felt like sadness. I felt like I wanted to cry, and that some tears were coming out. And then I heard a voice, and the voice shared with me that, my child, everything is good. You're good. Life has played these cards, and this is what's happening right now. But it's your choice how to take the cards, and how to work with it moving forward. And the tree said, this happens to me many times. A windstorm comes and breaks off one of my limbs. Thunder strikes and broke half of me. The birds come and they eat my fruits and they eat my leaves. And so I could say, oh no, a windstorm came and it broke off my favorite limb. I love that limb. That limb was so big, it was like 20% of me. Now I'm only 80%. Now I'm not as pretty. I'm not as beautiful. The other trees are gonna look at me and they're gonna make fun of me. The birds aren't gonna wanna come and sit on my limbs. They're not gonna wanna come and eat my fruits because I'm not as good anymore. I'm an imperfect version of my once imperfect self, or maybe I thought I was perfect before. And so the tree said, this is one option. Yeah. And the tree said, this is what we usually do. And this is the movement of ego. Yeah, this is the movement of division. And so from the movement of ego, everything is separate, and everything moves into fear, everything moves into doubt, into insecurity. And then the tree said, And there's another movement, and this is the movement of the soul. And the wind comes and breaks off one of my limbs. Ah, thank you, wind. Thank you so much. That limb, I knew that limb needed to be broken off, and I know that if you are having this happen, it's for good. It's meant to be. I trust in you. I thank you, Mother Nature, and I open myself to whatever life needs to bring me. And so this is an expression of love. It's an expression of saying yes to whatever life brings you, and an expression of acceptance. A meditation teacher said that meditation is saying yes to all of experience. It's a very, very deep this. Learning how to say yes to whatever comes, whatever life brings you. And so the tree decided to say yes, even that one of its limbs was broken. And so the tree explained to me that if we go from the ego of feeling bad, of sadness, of this and that, or we go from the soul of elation, of happiness, if we move from a yes, then the tree said, look at me. When a branch breaks, many branches can grow from that place, more branches than before. But if I come from a place of sadness, from a place of fear, most likely that branch is just going to wither. And it's going to be something that we're going to spend the next month looking at. I had so many beautiful leaves there. The branch is gone. And then as a result, we're going to create more tension. We're going to create more stiffness. And then another branch is going to become weak, and that one will fall off. And so we can use it as a way to grow or a way to devolve, and so this is what life is presenting to us all the time, and the tree in that moment caught me in a moment of real crisis, and in a way helped me to totally shift and reorient what I was looking at. There's a saying, forget who said this, but I like it. It says, a good consultation can save a life, or can really redirect someone's path. And so the more you connect with nature, the more you connect with this nature ally, your communication, your relationship is going to become more open, and it's going to blossom in a deeper way. And the advice will become more and more subtle. It starts to come as well, sort of in frequencies, and you're gonna see it's gonna be a huge support for whatever you need in your life. Also, to know that when you're starting to work with this element, that maybe you don't hear anything. Maybe it's just like a feeling, an energetic sort of download or a frequency that's coming into the body, or maybe you don't feel anything. But this is fine. This is you attuning yourself to this message and to this understanding. So the more you keep going outside, the more you keep connecting, the more it's like you're opening up your ears, you're opening up your spiritual senses and your sort of spiritual antenna. And then this becomes sort of an antenna that stays open. And so then the messages from nature come in as well without needing to ask. They're kind of coming in just by being, just by seeing, just by looking. And so you start to come into a much more natural movement with Mother Nature. Like here, there's a bee that's flying around me. I could be like, let me hit the bee. But in another way, what we start to realize is, beautiful, thank you, bee. Are you coming to give me information? Actually what I feel like is often these bees or mosquitoes or different things, what they're coming to do is they're coming to clean me. They're coming to clean my aura. Sometimes I'm like, I'm thinking bad, and my mind is so active, and then a bee will like come right in front of my head. Thank you very much, cleanse me. And so in this way, we're coming into a deeper alignment with nature. We're coming to understand what nature is here for, and it's here for guidance, it's here for support. And we, in that way, are here for guidance and support of nature. It's important to make offerings to her and to see if you can get involved in conservation efforts, see if there's ways to support the indigenous tribes, and see if there's ways to reduce your impact on nature, waste, and all of that. So, thank you. Blessings, joy, prosperity, goodness, and I see you soon.